Jesse from the Nue Agency on to talk about the report that you guys just did. You see a lot in the music industry, and you're really bullish on how there's a lot of opportunities still in the music industry. So I'm excited to hear from you from that report and the data that you have, just the trends that you're seeing both in live music and also the rest of the industry as well. So thanks, Jesse, for joining us. Do you want to give us just a quick little synopsis of what the Nue Agency is and what your work there is?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Craig. So I live at the intersection of music, brand partnerships, and technology. And my agency is really focused on helping brands make deeper, meaningful connections to their consumers by leveraging the power of music. And our campaigns are really music with a technology emphasis marketing campaign. So it's an advertising agency. I used to represent the artists, and I kind of come from an artist lens, but my clients are currently the brands, and they hire me to come up with these kind of campaigns. Probably not the traditional way of doing it, because we're leveraging artists and culture and tech in these innovative, fresh ways and experiences. And I also write a newsletter that chronicles everything happening in this same space of music, technology, and brands, and that's Beats and Bytes.
Awesome. I didn't know about that until just now. So I'll check that out. And you should too if you're listening. Let's dive into this report. Like, what are you seeing? You did this report because it was end of Q2 2024. What year are we in? 2024. What are you seeing in the industry in that intersection?
Well, firstly, the music business is really healthy. It's doing better than it's ever done in many different ways. The record labels and the live business all are coming off just tremendous Q1. Music business outperformed the NASDAQ and the Dow in terms of its stocks. And we're just seeing the music in general more relevant than ever. More people are creating music than ever. More people are listening to music than ever before. There are more artists out in the world. There's better tools to create music. So it's a really exciting time for music, and the value of music has also gone up, but publishing, with catalogs, with the streaming world really kind of helping to fix a lot of the problems that the music business had in the past, and has created new opportunities and new problems. The live business has been on a roll over the past decade, and all of a sudden is starting to wobble a little bit. It had a great Q1. Live Nation stock was at an all-time high. The Sphere was introduced into the live space. More and more artists were touring, and obviously you had these behemoths. You had Beyoncé and Taylor Swift that kind of lifted the whole economy in the live space. Q2 brought some new things, right? One of the big questions unanswered is, will Live Nation and Ticketmaster have to break up? And that was really introduced as a case was brought against them in Q2. Now, Live Nation is all of a sudden, stock is down, and there's questions about its viability and its future. On top of that, Taylor's touring, but not as frequently. Beyonce's not touring. And a lot of people are feeling exhaustion in ticket prices, in ticket optionality, in are these artists relevant? And we saw some tours being canceled in Q2. We saw J-Lo's tour being canceled. We saw the Black Keys tour being canceled. We saw some stumbling around Justin Timberlake's shows. And all of a sudden, the live space started to feel like there was a lot of competition and not the same level of massive growth and health that it's seen over, the past decade or so, month over month.
So, interesting thing when people are talking about the live industry, they often are talking, we get so much attention put on the Taylor Swift and the Beyonce and the Justin Timberlake. How do you feel, just from your perspective in the industry, how do you feel like that step below them is? Like, do you feel like that's pretty healthy, or do you feel like there's some shakiness there as well as far as demand? Have they like soaked up all of that demand, or is there an interest there in kind of the mid-tier artists and the upcoming artists?
Well, it's really hard to create these kind of mainstream big artists in this
Yeah.
environment, right? Because there's just not, in the past, there was these funnels where it was like MTV or mass radio. Now, people say that niche is the new mainstream and mainstream is the new niche, because it's harder than ever to really be a big artist that connects and appeals to everybody. And so music is a lot more fragmented, and that is leading to less significant mainstream acts. And I think that the business is pretty worried about what happens after the Rolling Stones, Bruce Springsteen, Bon Jovi, artists today that are still out on the road and selling out basketball stadiums and huge football stadiums night after night. What happens? Is the next generation going to be able to fill the gap? There is hope. There is hope that Olivia Rodrigo and Bad Bunny and, even Sabrina Carpenter, like there are a new wave of great artists that are coming up that should be able to carry some weight for a short term. But I think that we're definitely feeling a little bit of fear on the fact that like there might not be huge stadium acts as abundant as this kind of current era and the past. And also festivals are starting to get a little tired. This was the first time Coachella, even though it was really relevant and important and always sets the bar and sets the tone for the upcoming festival season, they had some trouble selling out in advance. And that was a big wake-up call that maybe we've hit some form of saturation when it comes to festivals and shows and artists on the road. And everybody wanted to be outside after COVID. Now we're starting to even out again and level out in a way that the business has to reinvent itself and keep staying fresh. It's not just about going to see everything anymore.
Yeah. And I wonder if you mentioned on the niche thing, like I wonder if there's a world where stadium shows are not kind of the mainstay that people go to, but they start going more to the venue, like the bigger venues and stuff in towns or the clubs and stuff, to see those like specific artists that they feel like they have a connection with because of social media and stuff, where you have like much more fragmented market where you just don't have all of the attention gravitating towards one or two people, but you have like hundreds of people that all have sustainable audiences because they have different ways to monetize it.
I think there's a call to intimacy and to more direct relationships with fans. And when you're at a festival, it can be nice because a fan can get a smattering of a bunch of different performances and artists. But I think you're right. I think people want more deep, meaningful connections with their fans. And I think fans want to be able to see their artists in a more intimate setting. I do think that, it doesn't necessarily help the bigger picture or bottom line of the concert business and the festival business. They'll have to come up with new ways of doing that. But there is definitely an amazing experience when you can get fans and artists in these smaller rooms, and even if it's multiple nights, create that really memorable, intimate experience.
Yeah. I've seen some artists doing that too, where they're bigger artists, but they'll play smaller rooms, knowing full well that they'll just pack it out, right? But it just creates an experience that's super memorable for those fans that are desiring that more intimate experience. So
that Lady Gaga like Bud Light dive bar tour was just so brilliant, and just a perfect use of a brand and artist collaboration to be able to create these once in a lifetime experiences in different cities.
Can you talk a little bit about, with a couple minutes we have left here, just that brand and artist connection? Because I think that's something, we see a lot of venues and promoters and artists that are promoting themselves, that sponsorships and brand activations is like a way for a big opportunity for them to generate revenue that they may not have been thinking about before, or they're relying more on that now. And I think you have a unique perspective on that.
Really exciting to see that brand and artist partnerships has grown And it's growing for a bunch of reasons. In a post-COVID world, more artists are open to these ideas. Brands are working with the kind of influencers and creator economy, so they're used to working closer with artists, or at least with creatives. The other thing is that brands really have to decide, does it make more sense to partner with the festivals and the venues and the kind of larger scale opportunities to reach audience, or is it better to partner with the artists and have that artist be the kind of focal point and carry the brand into different rooms? And it's really case by case, and it's deal by deal. There's no right answer, but I do think that the data is showing that artist alignment and artist partnerships are a more powerful vehicle for a brand than sponsoring and slapping their name on a logo at a festival. So I do think that figuring out how to partner with an artist is a very useful way of marketing a product, especially if there's an authentic alignment. It resonates with the artist's audience. The artist can bring creative nuances to the brand's identity and form, and add its own flair to that. If it's putting content up or creating music, or co-creating content together, or creating product that's exclusive for that artist. There's just so many interesting ways that brands can partner with artists. And it's a really effective way of marketing. Obviously, very highly nuanced. It's a complicated world, partnering with artists versus like sponsoring a music festival or an event. I do think that it's worth the extra effort for a brand, because they're going to get more mileage out of and more authenticity and more deep connection when they partner with an artist direct.
They're really tapping into that intimacy that we were just talking about, that artists now have with their fans. It's really influencer marketing, but like musicians are some of the most influential people on our lives. So it's like really a heightened level of influencer marketing that's happening there.
Yeah, they're the most creative. They create music, which is the universal language. They shape culture, they shift culture. In a lot of ways, I feel like musicians are the ultimate influencers or ultimate creators.
Yeah, I mean, just one note on that. You mentioned something about musicians having that shift to thinking of themselves as creators. What does that mean to you?
I think that musicians just need to be more open to brand partnerships and to look at that creator influencer economy and say, hey, I can do this better and more effectively, and I want the additional revenue. I want the additional marketing support. I see that it resonates with consumers. These cosigns with brands and help to lead to new audience or propel a song or propel a tour. So I think that artists are starting to think about these brand partnerships in a way that behoove them, and even creating their own brands in the way that influencers have been doing really well. I mean, the biggest story of the past decade in music is really Beats and Dre, Rihanna and Fenty, even Kanye and Yeezy. Like, these are billion-dollar brands that were created between artists and passion points and their fan base. And I think that more and more artists are thinking about how to incorporate brand syncs, brand partnerships, brand licensings, brand creations to help to propel music and their projects. It's crazy to think that like 3 years ago, Bruce Springsteen was giving music to a Super Bowl commercial. Like 10 years ago, that would have been unthinkable. And now you've got people like Bob Dylan like launching a whiskey. It's kind of hard to believe that that's the world we're in right now, but it makes a lot of sense when you look at all of the history and what got us here.
People can check out your full report if you have that up online somewhere. Is there somewhere people can find that and follow along, find your newsletter, those sorts of things?
Yeah, if you look up my name, you can basically find my website, and from there just sign up for my newsletter. You can see past newsletters on the blog archive or on LinkedIn. But yeah, it's a weekly newsletter that breaks down everything happening in the intersection of music, technology, and brands.
Thanks so much, Jesse.
Thanks for having me.